How do you do research for your books? Oh, that's a good question. And, the answer is you have to be creative, you have to be imaginative, you have to think outside of the box, and sometimes you have to be willing to be a little borderline evil. What I mean is when you're looking for a certain storyline, when you're looking for the details, don't be bashful. Be willing to ask questions. Especially like me, I'm dealing with a murder, I'm dealing with a mystery, I'm dealing with suspense. I'm not going to be asked, what's the best way to make blueberry buckle? I'm going to try and find out what does an entry and an exit wound of a 9mm look like, in an arm or a leg or, skull or something like that. Find anything in that particular topic. If you're going to be looking for setting up a crime scene for a police procedural, or even for a regular mystery, you're going to want to research forensic science, crime scene investigations, crime scene photos. You can find a lot of that on the internet. You can find books that deal with that. Writers Police Academy is a great source because they want their writers to be able to have a thorough knowledge of forensic science. Notice I said forensic science. If anybody is any good at this, you will know there's a difference between forensics and forensic science. Forensic science deals with crime scene investigations. Forensics deals with public speaking. Now, because the coroner would have to present his findings at an inquest or a grand jury hearing or anything where they were seeking an indictment, he had to be very good at speaking. So he had to be very eloquent and very experienced with his forensics. The information he was presenting to you was the detailed evidence suggesting what had happened at the scene of the crime. Therefore, that had to be put into a specific way that it could be presented as evidence. That's where the forensic science comes in. But anyhow, research. Like I said, any website, any books, any articles dealing with forensic science, crime scene investigation, crime scene photos, measurements, and so forth. That's really good when it comes to like the procedures of what to do and how to analyze a crime scene. But suppose you want to figure out how it was done, why it was done. One thing I love to do is I love going through very old newspaper articles because they are really good, especially when you've got these old scrapbooks, because they will cut out an article that catches their eye, and it will be the beginning of a story. They might miss any article that came out weeks later with the rest of the story. So you've got this really great cliffhanger, and they never come back with the rest of it. So that will send you through dusty old microfiche, or now it's all digital. They don't even have those anymore. But newspaper archives, old magazines. I love folklore. I love family traditions. I love all kinds of stories. So I'm going to investigate that to kind of help me flesh out characters. When you're doing research, you got to think about the time period you're working at. How did they eat? What was the slang? What was the type of dress? What were the interests? If they wanted to go out for a little diversion, would they go to a barn dance? Would they go to a corn husking? Would they go to a square dance, a lecture? What? That's like back in the 1800s or the turn of the century. Okay, you're setting a book in the 1970s. What was going on then? What were the events that were occupying somebody's mind? How did they dress? What were the type of foods? What was on television? What was on the radio? What were the big movies? What would they have done? What would they have seen around them? Then, if you're going to be doing a murder mystery, how? You've talked about who, you've talked about when. You got to figure out how. Are they going to be poisoned? Will it be a natural death? Will it be a suspicious death? Will they be shot? Will it be a car accident? You have to research what these type of things would do. How would they look if this was how the victim met their demise? How would an entry bullet wound look? How would an exit bullet wound look? How would a stab wound look? What would a body look like if it ingested poison? How would you detect it? So you got to research all those things. Again, Writer's Digest have some wonderful guides in police procedures, poisons, manners of death, courtroom proceedings, forensic science, you name it. Be willing to ask questions, talk to police officers, talk to detectives, talk to doctors, talk to friends of yours that, are kind of into this sort of thing. And then be prepared to run into the situation I did when I was talking to a friend of mine who was a taxidermist. And I said, ooh, he could tell me what type of wounds different types of bullets do, and how would you do this? And if I wanted to do this, how would I do this? And he said, I am going to wait till you get some book published before I answer this question, because I am not entirely convinced I won't necessarily be named an accessory to your lack of judgment. So, finding people in those expert fields is fun. Watching the looks on people's faces when you ask questions about how to do XYZ. One word of advice when you are talking to your attorneys about certain legal complications or probates or intestate wills and things like that, be sure to give them the disclaimer that you are researching a novel, and don't just suddenly send them this email, which will then result in a very quick email reply and several text and phone messages trying to find out what is going on. Don't ask me how I know that. I just do. But research, that's where the fun begins. I wish you the best.